The objectives of this lecture are to introduce exactly what is a graph in graph theory and to give some simple examples. We'll also define some special cases such as a multigraph or a graph with loops, and we'll see some examples of graphs used as models. So our first example in the right-hand column is an example of a graph with 4 vertices. So a graph is a collection of points that we call vertices and connecting lines that we call edges. So this graph has 4 vertices, which are colored red, blue, and green, and it has 5 edges. Another example of a graph is the graph in the left-hand column that is called Peterson's graph. Peterson's graph has 5 vertices on the outside cycle, and it has 5 vertices on the inside star. So altogether, Peterson's graph has 10 vertices. We can count the edges. There are 5 vertices or 5 edges on the outside cycle, and there are 5 edges connecting the vertices in the star. And there are also 5 edges connecting vertices from the cycle to the star. So all total, we have 15 edges in Peterson's graph. Our third example is a graph that we will call a bipartite graph. In this example, we have 5 vertices in the set labeled U and 4 vertices in the set labeled V. So in this example, we have 9 vertices. The formal definition of a graph is a set, which we call the vertex set, and another set, which we call the edge set. Now technically, the edge set can be empty, so you can have a collection of isolated vertices and you still have a graph. We can also assign direction to the edges. This is called a directed graph, or sometimes we call a directed graph a digraph for short. In the examples that we have seen so far, there's been only one edge between any pair of vertices. So is it possible to have more than one edge between a pair of vertices? Yes, and these are called multiple edges. And a graph that has multiple edges is called a multigraph. Another possibility is, can a vertex be connected to itself? Yes, this can happen as well, and these edges are called loops. So in the example on the right-hand column, we have both multiple edges and loops. The multiple edges are colored red, and the loops are colored blue for clarity. But for the most part, we will be studying simple graphs, and simple graphs do not allow multiple edges, nor do they allow loops. We're going to see the versatility of graphs as a modeling tool in the next several slides. In particular, we're going to see a roadmap, a corporate hierarchy, a relation network of people, and an RNA molecule. In the roadmap, you might notice that the edge connecting the firehouse to the dentist is a directed edge. So this example illustrates that we can have a mixed graph. Some of the edges have directions and some don't. Actually, all the edges that don't have a direction, you can think of them as bidirectional. However, in this example, all the edges have direction, and so we have a digraph where the relationship is definitely one way. That is, the staff members do not supervise the department head, even though perhaps they would like to. In this example, the vertices once again represent people. In this case, they're senators. The vertices are color-coded so that the senators that are from the Democratic Party are colored blue and the Republicans red. Two vertices are connected by an edge if the corresponding senators have voted yes on the same bill. So just at a glance, you can see just how much they vote along party lines. You can see who tends to vote a lot and who doesn't vote very much. And you can see who, on occasion, has reached across the aisles. So, one thing that this last example illustrates is how good a visualization tool graph theory can be. If you had to sort through documents to get the information that you just saw at a glance with the graphs, it would take you a lot longer. In this example, the vertices represent something more abstract. In particular, they represent a region of the molecule. They represent a region where the nucleotides are not bound across from each other. Two vertices are connected by an edge in the graph if the corresponding regions in the molecule are connected by a stem. And what this does, it allows us to capture the underlying structure of the molecule. For more information on this, if you're curious, we'll be looking at this more later, but you can visit the webpage below, biomath.nyu.edu. So the objectives of this lecture were to introduce graphs and exactly what is a graph and graph theory, and to see some examples of how graphs can be used as a modeling tool. If you have any questions about this lecture, don't hesitate to send me an email.